welcome to an AVForums short video overview of the Arcam SA35 Streaming Amplifier. My name is Ed Selley, I'm the Hi-Fi editor for AVForums. What is the SA35? It is this, and it's the smaller of two streaming amplifiers in the Radia range. It might be fair to say that we've waited quite a while for these. They made their first appearance at the 2024 Munich show, and they've been promised / threatened for quite a long time after that, and it's only now that we've started to see them. £3,000 is quite a lot, but then again, it's quite a lot of product. So let's start right at the beginning. In the centre of this is an example of Arcam's Class G amplifier technology. It's something specific to Arcam. It might be best viewed as an amplifier and a half. Essentially, there's more than one power supply. There's more than one output stage. Essentially, the point at which a conventional Class AB amplifier would have to cross over from positive to negative. There's a point of distortion at this called, imaginatively enough, crossover distortion. What Class G does is a method of avoiding that, or at the very least moving it to a point of the audio spectrum where you can't easily hear it. It's been around for quite a while, and broadly speaking, it works pretty well. In this case, you get 120 watts into 8 ohms and 200 into 4. Not the most volcanically powerful amplifier you can buy for £3,000. But it should be enough to get the job done in most instances, and I have to say that I haven't felt in any way underpowered whilst testing it here. This amplifier is made available to 3 RCA line inputs, which doesn't sound like a huge amount, but we'll cover why that is. Of more note, and something that's shared with the SA30, which was perhaps the first instance of this type of amplifier from Arcam, is that as well as a moving magnet phono stage, there is also an input from a moving coil phono stage with substantially lower voltage, so it has much more gain. That's still a relatively rare thing to find at this price point. If you find that a useful thing to have, the Arcam is in a very limited field of amplifiers that support it. The reason why there aren't that many analog inputs is because very much in Arcam's thinking is that they're secondary considerations. First and foremost, there is a complete UPnP streaming module in here. It supports PCM to 384 kHz, DSD to 256. I am aware that there are products out there which will double that, so 768 PCM, DSD 512. But the blunt reality is that for the vast majority of people, myself included, I just don't have anything in these sort of sample rates. So broadly speaking, the SA35 can handle anything it's likely to encounter in the real world. There is support for multiple streaming services. If that streaming service, Tidal, Qobuz, Spotify, etc., has a connect function, the SA35 supports it. It's backed up by a pretty decent Chromecast implementation and AirPlay. There aren't many ways you can't get content to the SA35. There is a dedicated Radia app. It's good, but not amazing. My main gripe is one I also have with Wim and a couple of other companies. The old Arcam Music Live app was not great, but it could show on an iPad 28 albums from your library on the screen at one time because it would show them as a grid. This one can't, so the maximum number of albums that you can see on screen at one time is 8. And bluntly speaking, if you've got a large library and you're just doing the old, aimless scroll, it takes longer to go from one end to the other to find something to listen to or to be inspired by something or to remember what it is you were looking for in the first place than it was on the old app. I am aware that this is a niche complaint, but I have the luxury of this platform to complain about it, and I will continue to do so. This module is backed up by 4 extra digital inputs, 2 coax and 2 optical. They have a maximum supported sample rate of 192 kHz. And there is an HDMI eARC connection. Now, the previous SA30 had HDMI ARC. It didn't misbehave whilst it was on test here, but feedback from plenty of people on AVForums and elsewhere suggested that it wasn't bulletproof. Again, I only have a sample point of two TVs here, one Philips, one LG, but it hasn't put a foot wrong. It has started and stopped and synced and behaved itself and done all of the things that I would expect an HDMI eARC connection to do in 2025 without complaint or even me stopping to think about it. The acid test of these products is whether you could imagine your household, who may well be not as invested in this whole process as you, just using the product and not complaining to you vociferously that it isn't supposed to be doing the things that it does. Arcam's done a pretty good job across the functionality of the SA35 in ensuring that it should meet those criteria. Now, I say pretty good. Honesty dictates that I don't feel it's perfect. Out of the box, this product performed a software update, which was a bit alarming to watch. It took multiple minutes, involved the amplifier aimlessly cycling through powering off, powering on, couldn't interact with it in any way. It didn't give me much feedback about what it was doing, and then it lurched into the software update. It wasn't confidence inspiring in a way that BlueOS or, to be honest, the Wim app or Eversolo or Cambridge Audio. All of these companies have just instilled a slightly greater sense of this is going to work forever than the SA35 has. It's only marginal. This does feel an awful lot more worked through, thought out, and sort of generally engineered than the SA30 did. But cards on the table, I don't feel it's quite as fit and forget bulletproof as some of its key rivals. Unlike some of its key rivals though, it does have an extra party piece in the form of dirac. Now, we've tested other products with dirac. Where the Arcam is slightly different is that that license is inclusive in the asking price, as is a microphone to take measurements. Now, at £3,000, that's still substantively more than a NAD C700 V2, for which the license is a cost option, or even adding a Bluesound Node icon to something and paying for the license there. It's not a slam dunk in terms of value, but it's one less thing to think about. And of course, if you have a room which really isn't behaving itself, dirac is going to give you options over and above that of some of the more straightforward EQ systems that we've seen on more affordable devices, or indeed devices that don't have any EQ at all. Now, all of this comes wrapped in radio casework. I feel that this is what a radio amplifier should have looked like from the outset. The more affordable models, the A5, 15, 25, they do with just a essentially an LCD display. And they look all right. I don't dislike them. I feel the inclusion of a large colour display on the front of this product really lifts it. It matches the aesthetic really quite nicely. And it's grown on me. I was not 100% sure what to make of the yellow when the radio products first appeared, but familiarity and I don't know, maybe I'm just mellowing. I think actually it's quite good, and I think more than it being simply quite good, it gives this product an identity of its own that wasn't really the case with the older HDA products, which were grey and a bit nondescript. There is a remote control. It's around here somewhere. Yes, there it is. This is substantially smaller than what we had before, and that sounds like a bad thing, except that combined with the front screen and just the spruce up in functionality, it gets everything done that you want done. It's nicer to hold and use, and it's just less of a big clunky button festooned thing, really. Fit and finish is extremely good. My only bugbear is the same bugbear I've had with every single radio product I've tested. At the back is a flap, a lip, call it what you will. It's one of those things that looks great on a design, but it is an absolute pain in the arse to lean over the top of this amplifier and make connections to it, because you can't see the connections because the lip is there. Now, it's only a tiny amount of time that you spend overall doing that sort of thing, but nevertheless, it's really annoying, and at a point where you have a slight vulnerability in your perception to a product, it's the wrong thing to have at the wrong time. So, those gripes aside, I do rather like what we've got here. Sonically, I like what we've got too. The preceding SA30 genuinely sounded rather lovely, and this doesn't rewrite what it's doing, but it just combines its digital decoding and its amplification in such a way that's very hard to provoke into sounding harsh or forward. As I noted earlier, there is an awful lot of headroom. You'll have to be driving pretty insensitive speakers in a pretty large room to find yourself challenging the upper registers of what this amplifier can do. I've also found, and this is something I can't objectively prove due to the nature of products disappearing, coming back, so on and so forth. I like dirac on the SA35 more than I liked it on the SA30, and I believe this is just down to progress that dirac has made. When I tested the SA30, I felt it was doing things to the upper registers of loudspeakers where it wasn't simply correcting anything, it was a room issue, it was correcting the behavioural traits of the speaker. Now, subjectively, if you've chosen a speaker to do X, Y, and Z, the amplifier then proceeding to monkey about with that is not great. I found that to be less of an issue with the SA35, and I think it's just down to improvements in the dirac software. The streaming module is a pleasure to use. I won't lie, I've mainly used it over Roon because I like Roon. I have Roon here, and it just means everything can be controlled from the same point. But I've also alternated between the Connect points, the dedicated app, and Roon, and it's just worked in a way that is wholly gratifying. The other thing I really like is the phono stage. Arcam is good at phono stages. I don't think it's made any significant changes to the phono stage in a very long time, but that doesn't prevent it being pretty good. I would say, when I reviewed the SA30, I made a bigger play of the moving coil sort of section. In the time since I reviewed the SA30 in 2020, moving magnet cartridges have really exploded in terms of the price points they're being offered at and their capability. If I was setting up a turntable to work with the Arcam, my sort of belief is that I'd go with a moving magnet phono stage. If you already have a moving coil phono stage that you like though, this is an amplifier that's going to allow you to connect it direct without any need for an external phono stage, and it's going to do a pretty decent job with it. It perhaps just won't get the absolute maximum that cartridge is capable of delivering. There is also a real all-round sense of ability that feeds back into what I was saying about your household using this and just getting on with it. Across its streaming, across the HDMI ARC, across the phono stage, it's just delivered a level of performance that I found to be satisfying and goes a long way to warranting the not insignificant cost that's on, that this product asks for. This does rather neatly lead on to, would I buy it? And that's a complicated question because since the SA30, a product which I awarded a perfect score to, appeared, the nature of this market of not quite an amplifier, not quite an all-in-one system really has come on in leaps and bounds. It's expanded tremendously. At £3,000, the SA35 feels and is more expensive than the SA30 was. It's a better product and it's a nicer product to use, but £1,000 is not money you lose down the back of this sofa. Were it my funds, and it's not, I need to stress that, I'd possibly be tempted at looking at Bluesound's Node Icon as my point of streaming and EQ and then choosing my amplifier without having to think about extra functionality on board. Nevertheless, that's more complicated and potentially more limited than what Arcam is offering here. This is an excellent product. It sits between sort of NAD price points, and the inclusion of dirac as part and parcel of what's going on for people in more challenging rooms and spaces. It's very hard to look past that as a very strong value proposition. It's not completely perfect, but it is deeply impressive. Now, there is a review that accompanies this video on the site. It covers various points that I will have inevitably forgotten whilst stuttering at the camera. So please do pop along and have a look at that if you want some extra points on there. In the meantime, all that's left for me to do is to ask you to like and subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed this as a way of finding out when we do more. And I will see you again next time. Goodbye.